Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn. We are continuing our conversation with Dr. Matthew Sleeth. He is the author of a wonderful book called 24/6, a prescription for a healthier, happier life. We talked about his journey, his spiritual journey in our first program, how he surrendered his one and only life to God around the age of 47. And so if you want to hear about how God pursued him, you got to check out our first program. And then yesterday we started talking about what is the Sabbath and about the fourth commandment in the Bible. And if you missed any of our first two programs, I want to encourage you to go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today. Check those 14-minute programs out. I know that you'll really be blessed. And Dr. Sleeth, in your book, you gave a great example. A lot of people, they hear yesterday, okay, that's great. I get, the biblical principle about Sabbath, but does anybody do that? And in your book, 24/6, you shared a powerful illustration by David Green, the founder of Hobby Lobby. Can you share that with us?
Sure. David was very kind and met with me out at his headquarters in, where is that? Oklahoma, I think. Yeah. And we spent a day together talking about this. Hobby Lobby was a store that was actually open 7 days a week to begin with, and it was open for 7 days a week. I believe it was almost 20 years until it. And by the way, it had always bothered him that it was. He really knew that he wasn't supposed to be open there.
Right.
And so he did it in an experiment, per se, and he closed a few stores. And a reporter wrote about it and had interviewed him and said he's closing the stores, and if it goes okay, he'll close the other stores. In other words, that's really not the way you're supposed to do it.
Right.
And he was convicted by that he was going to put God to the test, and he did it the other way around and started closing the stores. At the time, Sunday was their largest sales day of the week, and that represented $100 million worth of their business. Now
just on Sundays.
Just on Sundays. Now, they are a privately owned company, so they were able to do this, and they closed the stores, and they lost money in the first year. But I believe it was starting in the second year, they recouped all that and went forward. And frankly, as he said, and I think this is a direct quote, God has made me rich selling stuff to people they don't need. and God really has blessed that. And he's not the only one I cite in the book. Non-Christians, B&H Photo in New York is a very, very large electronics and equipment company, camera equipment, that sort of thing. That they have a 40,000 square foot showroom in Manhattan, but the majority of their business is on the internet, and they closed down the ability to buy off their website for 24 hours once a week.
Really?
Now, can you think about that? But they're getting at the intent of what Sabbath is. Not even let a machine do it for you. By the way, if you your audience was listening when I read the 10 Commandments out yesterday or the day before, I forget. We, so much of the verbiage of that isn't about taking a Sabbath yourself, but it's about giving it to other. And so they do that with them. And there's smaller companies that I've met. I've frankly been puzzled why more Christian businesses don't try this. It is utterly clear that the Lord has honored those businesses that have done it. I believe he's wanting to do that with others. I don't think you put him to the test, but I'm surprised that more businessmen and women haven't tried it, because Hobby Lobby is only open 66 hours a week, and they have a higher minimum wage than other stores, etc., and they've just had great employee retention as a result of having a Sabbath day. You don't have to be a Christian to work there. You still get Sunday off, period. So.
Well, and that's great for the people that work there. And of course, most everybody's familiar with Chick-fil-A's philosophy, and I think the latest survey came out showing I think they've moved up to third in the world with fast food sales, and they're doing that on only 6 days of business a week.
They are, and so I think that every one of us has a challenge of how can we move God to the most important slot in life for us. If I had been a Christian 20 years ago, and I wasn't, I understand that the talk around Christianity was how can we get people who are in church on Sunday to act like Christians on Monday. Now the question is, are we even going to get them into church on Sunday? And I believe us just dropping the Sabbath has been part of the decline of the church. And there's a quote, I believe I have it in 24:6 by D.L. Moody, predicting that if we were to lose the Sabbath, we are going to lose the church. And if we lose that, we're going to lose the family. And if we lose those, the nation is next to go.
Well, we definitely are bumping up against that every day, as we know. You made a really strong statement, and I totally agree with in your book. Honoring the Sabbath is not only an act of faith these days, it's an act of courage.
It is. It takes some courage, and it takes the courage to stand for something. My children, I recall when we started keeping a Sabbath, and one of the teachers they had in high school said, they're not going to be able to survive if they don't do homework on Sunday. And they went to something we don't have here in the South. They were in school up in New England, and there's something that's neither a public nor private school. They're called independent schools. And those schools run by independent rules, and the towns tuition their students into them, but you got to play by their rules, not the other way around.
Right.
You get kicked out, you're kicked out. Your parents got to bust their kids somewhere else or whatever. And I remember the teacher saying your children are just not going to do well. Well, that just didn't turn out to be the case. My son was valedictorian of his high school class, and my daughter didn't even graduate from high school. She was accepted to college when she was 15 years old because she only missed 2 questions on the SATs. What had happened to it? They're smart kids. They got a Jewish mom. But they had something nobody else had. They had 1 day a week where they threw it into park, and God and family and rest were the only things on that day. And because of that, they learned how to organize better, get the work done ahead of time, etc. And so much of this scripture is about getting your work, done ahead of time and organizing your life so that God's the first priority. And as people are coming up to Jesus, you see all the other things tugging at them. That could even be a family member is sick or whatever. Jesus says, seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. And all these other things will be added to you. And Sabbath keeping is a way of in helping to ensure that God goes first in our lives 1 day a week at least.
Well, and you'd shared, I saw a YouTube where you'd spoke at Wheaton College, and your son, he finished number 1 in his medical school class on top of this, obeying this Sabbath principle.
He did. That was here at UK. So he did, and he kept the Sabbath. Now, he would run his Sabbath starting in the evening, and he would be done with it Sunday evening. So if there's a big test Monday, then he'd have the evening. I'm not telling people when to set this time there. The ideal is Sunday, though, because God gave the Sabbath to us, I believe, to build a community. And he still wants to do that through it. He's not worried whether we work or don't work. He's worried whether or not we're part of a community, part of the body of Christ.
Well, I love that. Something else you shared in your book, 24/6. We're talking with Dr. Matthew Sleeth, wrote a wonderful book called 24/6, A Prescription for a Healthier, Happier Life. He shared that the 4th commandment about the Sabbath is the only commandment that begins with the word remember.
It is. And if I could just for a moment talk about the placement of that commandment. The commandments are not random. Nothing in the Bible is random. It's all breathed from the Lord. And so the first 3 commandments are about God. Love God. We didn't make him. He makes us. We're not supposed to make idols. And to even be able to call out his name is a privilege. And so to do anything else is really a sin. To use the Lord's name in vain is a sin. Those are all about God. Commandments 5 through 10, to honor our parents, not kill, lie, cheat, steal, or put stuff on our credit card to keep up with God or our neighbors. Those commandments are all about humanity. How do we get along? The Sabbath commandment, which is the longest, belongs to both groups. It has an element of heaven about it and has an element of earth about it. It has an element of the eternal, which would be God, and it has an element of time, which is us. We actually, when I am in a church preaching about this, I ask people to buddy up and to share their memories of Sunday when they were children growing up. Mm-hmm. And I say, well, if you're too young, for this to have been a cultural norm, people with no hair or gray hair, there's a premium one. And people share their memories. And their number one memory is that they went to church. And when we do that, we don't just go to church. We have corporate prayer that day. We have corporate singing. May not have it any other day, even though we're doing everything right. And we have corporate prayers for the people and that sort of thing. We hear the word read out loud. The number 2 memory, besides going to church, is big meals with families and extended families. People remember taking naps, that sort of thing. And what I do is to walk them through them that their memories are actually the 10 Commandments. Mm. Honor your parents. There's nothing that honors me more than my family gathered around the table in peace. Yeah. Well, what about thou shalt not kill? Physically impossible to do if you're taking a nap. What about thou shalt not commit adultery? What I'll do is remind people in church of when they were little and got up early from the nap and went to their parents' door and it was locked. Their parents,
there was a reason, right?
Yes, their parents were not committing adultery. But if you think about it, and we can laugh, but God in his wisdom set aside time for a family to reconnect with each other. And it's so difficult in this world with people rushing off to jobs, to schools, to soccer games, to the math meet, all these things. Where does the healing between us and God and our families take place? Sabbath was made for healing. And are we going to get together again?
Yes,
let's talk about Sabbath and healing next show, okay?
Absolutely. I want to continue this conversation with Dr. Matthew Sleeth in his book 24/6, Prescription for a Healthier, Happier Life. He's going to share more about how that healing can happen in your life, not just physically, but also emotionally and mentally. And he's going to talk about the 3 hours of Sabbath that he found when he started doing this, and he wasn't actually able to do it on a Sunday when he first started. So, man, I hope you'll invite somebody else to join us. We're going to be continuing our conversation with Dr. Matthew Sleeth. He is the author of this book, 24/6, but also has written 3 other books, and he is the founder of Blessed Earth, a nonprofit organization based here in Kentucky. So I hope that you will invite somebody else to join us as we're going to continue our conversation about 24/6 and what a Sabbath means in our life. I'm Greg Horn. We'll see you tomorrow on Hope is Here. Need help selling your home? Or are you looking to buy your dream home? Let Diana Fields and her team with the Millennium Real Estate Group at Keller Williams Bluegrass Realty help you. Serving Central Kentucky in real estate and property management for 21 years, Diana Fields and the Millennium team have the experience to help you with one of life's biggest decisions in buying or selling a home. Contact Diana Fields today at 859-621-0604 or online at millenniumlex.com. That's millenniumlex.com.